Hey Canucks fans, the NHL is inching towards a return back with the release of Phase 2. I'm Clay Emo, I'm at Canuck Clay on Twitter, I'm at Clayton Emo on Instagram, I'm the founder of the GLCPC, the Good Looking Canucks Positivity Club, and this is my Canucks take, all in one take. It's Clay's Canucks commentary for Monday, May the 25th. This is where you get Canucks insight that's positive and timely. Lots to get to today. Thank you to everyone who joined us for our live stream last night. Had Jacob down with me. We made our announcement that next week we'll be streaming a little mini NHL 20 tournament, starting off me, Sean, and Jake playing in a game of ones. The winner gets a bye to the finals. The two losers have to play in a game of threes. And then the final will be that winner versus the original winner of the ones game in likely a threes or probably a fives, actually, now that I got some good feedback. So we'll progress from ones to threes to fives, and we will see how that goes. So that's next Sunday at 10 p.m. I really want to thank, once again, everyone who joined us last night. Some big news, especially if you're someone who's looking forward to the NHL returning in some way, in some shape, in some form, sometime this season. And according to my poll that I put out a day or two ago, there's 45% of you that want the NHL to return. I actually said, how badly do you want the NHL to return? Over 600 votes, 45% of you said absolutely. 26% said it would be nice. So 45 plus 26, that's 71% of you saying you'd like a return from the NHL. 15% of you said you're indifferent, and 14% of you said no, absolutely not. So there was 14%, of 600 people. So that's, what is that? That's about 84, 28. Yeah, that's about 84 people of the 600 said that. So it's not nothing, but they seem to be a very loud majority, or a loud minority, I should say, on Twitter, which is fine. Not everyone's comfortable. A lot of people have different concerns, and I get all that. But for those that want NHL to come back, they've got some good news this morning, because the NHL released Phase 2, a 29-page memo outlining what Phase 2 is going to look like. And I haven't gone through the whole thing, but I do know that the highlights are this. Basically, teams can start on-ice workouts now, if you want to call them that, limited to 6 players on the ice maximum at a time, but no coaches. No skill coaches, no head coaches, no trainers. It can only be the 6 players, maximum 6 players on the ice at a time. So it's more like stick and puck. It might be they can do their own drills, they can do their own exercises, but without the advisement of coaches. Also saying that when players are in the buildings, they should be wearing face masks or face coverings throughout the building, especially we're in places where physical distancing is tougher, but they do not have to wear masks on the ice. Now remember, this is just Phase 2. There still has to be Phase 3, which is practicing, then Phase 4, which would be returning to games. So a lot of things still need to be worked out, a lot of the protocols, the safety protocols, and the preventative measures. But for now, the NHL is basically saying, on a volunteer basis, there's no mandate, you don't have to do it, but NHL players can start to play practice on the ice in groups of 6. So that's a sure sign that the NHL indeed wants to come back. And they've been talking about early June as the start of as when this would start to take play, so go into play. So that would be as early as next week, and then they're looking at training camp starting a month or 4 to 6 weeks later in July. So then that would mean then the games would likely be August, September. So that's kind of the very rough time frame, and that's only if everything goes well. Again, Phase 2 really starting early June, then training camp in early July, and then you have hopefully hockey games in August, September, and we've talked about that 24-team play-in, going down to the 16-team playoff. Speaking of which, so first question of the day. There's gonna be like 3 or 4 questions of the day, quite frankly. First question of the day is, what do you make of the Phase 2 memo? The facts you know about it, and especially this whole thing about 6 players on the ice at the time, no coaches, and then physical distancing, wearing masks when you're in the practice facilities and in the arenas. I think that makes sense, but I'd love your take on the 6 players on the ice, and overall, how excited you are that they came out with Phase 2, and they seem really committed to getting going as soon as safely possible. So I talked about this 24-team play-in, going down to 16-team playoff, and I've done 2 or 3 vlogs about it the past week. We did find out it was a 29-2 vote. 29 clubs said yes, 2 said voted against it, and we have found out that it's been the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, it was Alex Killorn for Tampa. It was Jordan Martinook for Carolina. And I think they both said they are certainly fine to go forward with the plan if that's indeed what's ratified and approved. And they want to play. Bottom line is they want to play, but they're expressing objections to the format, and which is fine. You're allowed to do that. That's why they had a vote. In fact, I'm sure some of the 29 teams that said yes, it wasn't an automatic yes. I'm sure there's a lot of back and forth and debate about the fairness, and maybe they got swayed from no to yes or whatever it may be. But in listening to Alex Killorn, or at least through the athletic writer in Tampa that interviewed him, they're worried mostly about the fairness. The fairness from two fairness things. One of them is the fact that while the bottom 8 teams in each conference, 5 through 12, are playing each other in a meaningful best of 5, the top 4 teams that get a bye are playing in round robin games that are, they likely might be for seeding, but still they don't match the playoff intensity that the other 8 playoff play-in teams in the conference are going for. Do I buy that argument? A little bit, because obviously the bottom 8 are going to be playing for their lives, whereas the top 4 are going to be playing more for seeding. But still, I think it goes without saying, you want a higher seed, and you want to be playing your best hockey as you go into the actual true playoffs. So I get what they're saying, that the intensity might be different, but I think in the big picture, this is a unique scenario anyways. So there's not going to be a perfect situation that's going to be pleasing to every single player of all 31 teams. And I think that goes without saying. The second item of fairness they were talking about was, how does a team like Chicago, a 12 seed, or a team like Montreal, a 12 seed, how do they have basically the same odds of getting the Stanley Cup or getting to the Stanley Cup final and winning it than a number 1 seed? Well, I guess the 12 seed has to play an extra round, the play-in round, and in theory, they're not supposed to be they're not as good, right? That's why they're a 12 seed. So I get that as well, but again, there's no perfect situation. And if you're as good as you think you are, if you're a good enough team to win the Stanley Cup, you should, in reality, be able to beat every other team in the NHL, whether you play them in round 1, round 4, play-in, whatever it is. So I get it. I'm not in the NHL. I don't get all these nuances, but from an outsider's point of view, I think we have to acknowledge that this is going to be a different season overall. So that's the second question then is do you understand, do you agree with some of the reasons behind Tampa and Carolina's no vote in that 29-2 ratification of moving forward with the 24-team play-in plan? So that's an interesting thing to think about as well. A third thing I want to talk about really quickly, it sounds like they are setting the draft lottery date, not the draft date, but the draft lottery date for June 26th. So that'll be a month from now, basically a month from tomorrow, and then that's the lottery, but the actual draft will be at a later time. And likely if they're doing the lottery in June 26th, they're probably going to do the draft after the season, because I think any momentum building towards the June draft is now dissipated. And if they're planning to go to training camp in July, there's no way they're going to do a draft in July and take focus of players and management and coaches away from the training camp. And I'm sure it'll be a hyped return to hockey. So I anticipate that they do the lottery on June 26th, but the draft won't be done until after the playoffs, almost like it was a regular season. Although by a date, it'll likely be near the end of September. So that's a third question is, does that timing make sense to you? If they do the draft lottery June 26th, are you fine with the fact that, that they would do the actual draft, in my opinion, at the end of September? So a lot of things to think about when it comes to the return to play of the NHL. Actually, and you can talk about, are you surprised by my poll results as well? That 45% of people saying, yeah, they absolutely want to see the NHL come back. Another 26% saying, it would be nice. So that's 71% saying on the positive side of they want to see hockey back. So a lot of things to talk about. You can talk about that poll question. You can talk about this return to play phase 2, which sees players skating in groups of no more than 6. You can talk about the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Carolina Hurricanes concerns about this 24-team play-in format and the perceived fairness or unfairness. You can also talk about an NHL draft, June 26th, that draft date, the lottery date, and then when should the proper draft time be after that. Well, there's a lot of stuff to talk about with respect to the NHL, but I think the good thing is this. We're talking about hockey again. Last week I was so excited when I was able to talk about a Vancouver Canucks versus Minnesota Wild play-in series. And when we were able to talk about seeding, oh, and by the way, one last thing, if they are indeed going to reseed the top 4, I keep saying that Vancouver, Minnesota, the winner plays Colorado. Wouldn't that be an awesome matchup? Vancouver, Colorado, Makar, Hughes, McKinnon, Pettersson, Landeskog, Rantanen, and Horvat, Besser, Miller. But it won't be that, or there's a 25% chance that it won't be that, because if the 4 teams play to reseed, we could get either one of Colorado, St. Louis, Vegas, or Dallas. I'll tell you, I'll take Dallas first, then I'll take, I'd actually take St. Louis second. St. Louis is good, but Vegas is the team that scares me, and they've always scared me, but we have a lot of time to figure that out. So Canucks fans, lots to talk about. I would love to hear and read your comments below. I will read, react, and reply as always. Subscribe if you like to. Like this video if you like to. Enjoy the day. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Be safe. Be healthy. Have a great day. God bless. Go Canucks, go.